Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to share a story that reminds us that strength is not about where you come from, but about how fiercely you rise. It is a story that begins in darkness, but ends in a light so bright that it inspires everyone who hears it. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear may change the way you look at struggle forever. There was a woman who once had nothing, no home, no certainty, not even a place she could call her own. She slept on cold sidewalks, held her dreams close to her chest, and carried her pain silently. But even in those moments of despair, she refused to let the world define her. And here's where the hook comes in. Sometimes the world pushes you down not to break you, but to prepare you for who you're meant to become. One night, as she sat under a streetlight, she made a promise to herself. This is not where my story ends. That one decision became the turning point of her entire life. She worked small jobs, saved every coin, fed her mind with knowledge, and refused to let her past dictate her future. Every day she fought not for survival anymore, but for transformation. And that fight became her superpower. Slowly, she rebuilt her life brick by brick. She found work, then stability, then purpose. And the real magic? She didn't stop at her own success. She reached back for the people who were still struggling. She opened a shelter, created training programs, and gave others the same hope she once needed. Her message was powerful. If I could rise, so can you. Her story teaches us that being brave doesn't always mean having all the answers. Sometimes bravery simply means taking the next step, even when you're surrounded by fear. It means believing that today's pain can become tomorrow's strength. It means turning scars into stories and stories into inspiration. From homelessness to hope is more than a chapter of my life. It is the fire that shaped me into the woman I am today. People often think that being homeless means you are defeated, forgotten, or broken beyond repair. But let me tell you something. Sometimes the darkest place is where a brave woman discovers her brightest strength. When I had nothing, not even a roof over my head, I learned that courage is not built in comfort. It is built in the moments when you are shivering on a cold night, yet still whispering to yourself, I will rise. And here's a hook you need to hear. Your struggle does not define you, but your refusal to quit does. Every sunrise reminded me that as long as I was breathing, my story could change. I remember the nights I slept on concrete floors, using my bag as a pillow and my hope as a blanket. People walked past me like I didn't exist, but I didn't allow their silence to silence my spirit. I kept telling myself that brave women are not made in easy moments. They are shaped through storms. And even in that darkness, I held on to one powerful truth. A woman with inner strength is never truly empty-handed. I started noticing the small things I could still control: my mindset, my words, my reactions, my discipline. Those tiny decisions became my survival tools. And here's another hook. If you ever feel powerless, start with what you can control, no matter how small it seems. That is where transformation begins. One morning, I saw my reflection in a shop window. I looked exhausted, fragile, almost defeated, but I caught something in my eyes, a spark that refused to die. In that moment, I made a promise to myself, this is not where my story ends. That simple decision changed everything. I began searching for work, cleaning up at public restrooms, keeping my body moving so my spirit wouldn't collapse, and speaking to myself with respect even when the world didn't. I reminded myself daily that a brave woman doesn't need perfect conditions to rise. She only needs a reason. And my reason was simple. I wanted a life where I didn't just survive, but thrived. As I rebuilt my life step by step, I realized something profound. Hope is not a gift someone gives you. Hope is something you build with your own hands, your own choices, your own courage. Every step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. And today, when I look back, I don't just see homelessness. I see the birthplace of my strength, my resilience, and my purpose. Because sometimes, the lowest point in your life becomes the foundation of the bravest woman you will ever become. A promise that sparked transformation was the moment everything shifted in my life. And I want you to feel this deeply, because sometimes one decision, made in silence, becomes the loudest turning point of your entire story. I remember standing alone, exhausted, hungry, and tired of watching my life slip through my fingers. It wasn't a dramatic scene, no crowd, no spotlight, just me and my reflection, a woman who had survived more than she realized. And here's the hook. Change doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It begins the second you decide you deserve better. That day, I whispered a promise to myself, a promise that carried the weight of my entire future. I said, I will not let this be the end of me. And that one sentence became the anchor that kept me from giving up. What people don't understand is that transformation rarely starts with big steps. It starts with small commitments, the kind you make when no one is watching. That promise forced me to look at my life differently. Instead of seeing myself as someone stuck in pain, I began to see myself as someone preparing for change. And here's another hook. Your comeback begins the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start seeing yourself as the author of your next chapter. I told myself every day that I was strong enough to rebuild, strong enough to rise, and strong enough to turn my story into something worth telling. Keeping that promise required discipline, faith, and more courage than I thought I had. I started waking up with intention, telling myself that each sunrise was a new chance to honor that vow. I pushed myself to seek opportunities, no matter how small. I accepted work that others ignored, walked miles to find resources, learned skills that would help me grow, and protected my mind from negativity like my life depended on it, because it did. Some days were tough, unbelievably tough, but every time I wanted to quit, I remembered the promise I made, and that promise pulled me forward. As I continued honoring that commitment, something powerful happened. I began changing from the inside out. My voice grew stronger, my confidence returned, and my purpose became clearer. It wasn't just about escaping my situation anymore. It was about becoming a woman who could look back and say, I fought for this. That promise turned into a mission, and that mission became my motivation to rise higher than I ever imagined. Because sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is choose herself, choose her future, and choose to believe that one moment of courage can reshape an entire life. Building my life brick by brick was not a fast process, and that's exactly why it mattered. Real transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens in the quiet, determined moments when you choose effort over excuses. I learned this the hard way. After making that powerful promise to myself, I realized that rising wasn't going to be a dramatic leap. It would be a series of small, steady steps. And here's the hook. Your future is not built by the big breakthroughs you dream of, but by the small habits you repeat when no one is watching. When I had nothing, the only thing I could rely on was consistency. Every day, I woke up with one question. What small step can I take today to move forward? Those steps became the foundation of everything I have now. At first, the progress felt painfully slow. I took odd jobs that barely paid enough, but I treated each one like a stepping stone instead of a setback. I cleaned, I lifted, I walked. I worked with whatever dignity I had left. And here's another hook. You don't need the perfect opportunity to start building. You just need the courage to begin with what's in front of you. Every small effort added strength to my spirit and clarity to my purpose. I saved every little amount I could, even when it meant skipping things I wished I had. I trained my mind to focus on what I was building, not what I was missing. That shift in perspective became one of my greatest strengths. As I continued these small steps, I started feeling myself grow, not just financially, but emotionally and mentally. I learned to be patient with my progress, gentle with my setbacks, and proud of my resilience. I began setting routines, waking up early, cleaning up, practicing gratitude, reading motivational stories, and keeping my body active even when my circumstances were heavy. Those routines became my armor. They protected my hope and strengthened my discipline. And this is the hook I want you to hold on to. When a brave woman refuses to stop showing up, life eventually has no choice but to open its doors for her. One day, the little steps started turning into bigger ones. Job opportunities came. Stability slowly returned. My confidence grew stronger than my fears. And as I kept building, brick by brick, I realized something powerful. Every struggle I survived was preparing me for the strength I needed to carry the life I was creating. My journey taught me that a brave woman doesn't rebuild her life by magic. She rebuilds it through patience, consistency, and the unshakable belief that every small step forward is still progress. And when she looks back, she realizes that those tiny bricks she placed with tired hands became the foundation of a future she once thought was impossible. Empowering others after empowering myself became my mission the moment I realized that true strength is not measured by what you achieve alone, but by how many lives you lift along the way. I remember the first time I helped someone who was in the same place I had been, hungry, hopeless, and invisible. The gratitude in their eyes hit me harder than any personal success ever could. And here's the hook: success is never truly complete until it becomes a bridge for others. I had rebuilt my life step by step, but the real transformation happened when I chose to extend my hand to someone still struggling in the dark. That's when I understood that a brave woman's power multiplies when she becomes a source of hope for others. I started small. I shared resources, offered guidance, and spoke words of encouragement to those who felt unseen. I listened to their stories and reminded them, as I reminded myself every day, that circumstances do not define their worth. Every small gesture mattered. Every kind word planted a seed of possibility. And here's another hook: sometimes the smallest actions carry the biggest impact, and a simple act of belief can ignite a lifetime of courage in someone else. Watching others take their first steps toward change, because I had paved a little of the path before them, filled me with a sense of purpose that no personal achievement ever could. As my confidence and resources grew, I formalized my efforts. I established programs, shelters, and training opportunities to give struggling women and men the tools to rebuild their lives. Every program was created with one principle in mind: empowerment begins with belief. I wanted them to know that even when life strips you down to nothing, you still have the capacity to rise and drive. And here's the hook: when you empower someone else, you solidify your own strength, because nothing reinforces courage like giving it away. I saw people who had once been desperate find jobs, regain their independence, and even mentor others themselves. Their success became a mirror reflecting the power of a brave woman who refused to stop believing in the human spirit. Through this journey, I learned that true leadership is not about recognition or applause. It's about creating opportunities, nurturing hope, and lifting others higher than you rise yourself. Every life I touched reminded me why my struggles mattered, why my fight was worth it, and why a brave woman's legacy is measured not by what she takes, but by what she gives. And the most powerful realization of all was this: the act of empowering others transforms the giver as much as the receiver, creating a ripple of courage and resilience that no hardship can ever erase. A symbol of courage and compassion is not something I set out to become. It is something life molded me into through every struggle, every setback, and every choice to rise when the world expected me to fall. I want you to feel this deeply, because being a brave woman isn't about perfection. It's about persistence, heart, and the willingness to keep moving forward even when the path is unclear. And here's the hook: people may measure strength by victories, but true bravery is measured by how you face life when it seems impossible. I didn't just survive homelessness. I chose to transform my pain into a purpose so that others could see that hope exists, even in the darkest corners. Every time someone looked at me and saw resilience instead of defeat, I realized that courage is contagious and compassion is a force more powerful than fear. When I first stepped into the role of helping others, I was nervous. I questioned myself constantly. Did I have the right to inspire, to teach, to guide? And here's the hook: doubt is a companion for every brave woman, but it doesn't define your potential. I pushed through my uncertainty because I knew that every person I helped could be a life changed. A spark ignited, a chain reaction started. I listened, I guided, and I reminded every struggling soul that their value was not determined by where they were, but by where they were going. That act alone began to redefine what courage meant to me. Courage is not just in facing your own battles, it is in standing for others when they cannot stand for themselves. Over time, I noticed that my journey had become a symbol, a story people would tell when they needed hope, a living example that transformation is possible. And here's another hook: Sometimes you don't realize the impact of your bravery until someone tells you your strength gave them the courage to fight. Each person I helped reminded me that bravery is amplified when paired with compassion. Every shelter opened, every program started, every life touched reinforced the truth that one woman's determination can inspire an entire community. I began to see that my struggles were not just my own. They were tools to teach resilience, empathy, and persistence. Being a symbol of courage and compassion has taught me that bravery is not a solitary journey. It is a ripple effect, touching lives in ways we may never fully see. And here's the final hook to hold on to. When a brave woman chooses to lead with heart, her strength becomes more than her own. It becomes a beacon of hope, a call to rise, and a reminder that even in the face of adversity, one woman's courage can ignite the courage of countless others. Every act of kindness, every effort to uplift, every choice to believe in others has reinforced that a brave woman's power lies not just in what she overcomes, but in how she inspires the world to rise with her. As we celebrate brave women around the world, let us remember this woman's journey, a journey from homelessness to hope, from struggle to service, from darkness to leadership. Let her story be a reminder that no matter where you are today, your ending can be greater than your beginning. So keep moving, keep fighting, and keep believing. Because brave women don't just change their own lives, they change the world.